Okay, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is Monday, December 1st, 2025. It's 5:30. I'm going to call the Morristown Selectboard meeting to order. Do we have any agenda changes or additions?
No.
Okay. Community comments. Before we dive into community comments, the chair just wants to make a couple of comments. At the last meeting, unfortunately, we got away from some of the expectations of what it means to come up to the microphone and speak to the select board. Just remind everybody that this is a select board meeting. This is an opportunity for the public to come and speak to the select board, speak to the chair in particular. But it is always a time of civility and decency. And that's been true since I've been chair at the vast majority of meetings. But the last meeting, that wasn't true. We are not here to discuss individual employees. If anybody has a concern about an individual employee, please speak to the town manager. Don't bring that to the meeting. If employee names are mentioned, I will be shutting you off. This is not the place for it. If you have a concern with the town manager, you obviously can't take that to him, bring it to me or one of the other select board members. I will be holding you to 2 minutes. That is part of our rules and regulations. I am guilty for letting that go. At 2 minutes, I will be cutting you off and going from there. That's for community comments. I will remind you when it comes to agenda items, please speak to the agenda, not other items that might seem associated with the agenda. Stick with the agenda. And as always been true, I will let everyone speak for 2 minutes. After everyone's spoken, you'll get an additional 2 minutes to speak. Sorry to have to do that, but I will take responsibility for letting things slide a little bit and perhaps getting out of hand. So with that said, please come on up to the microphone, identify yourself if you have anything to say, and as community comments, remember to speak to items that are not on the agenda. Come on up, Ed.
Ed Lowenton, Morristown. And by the way, for people online or anyone here who does not know you, I don't think it'd be such a bad idea for you guys to identify yourself either.
Okay.
Really. Years ago, I used to wonder who I was listening to. So this is following my comment about what kind of chain of command or power an elected body like this could exert over the Development Review Board, which is not elected. And my review of town law, what did I do with that clause? I guess I accidentally deleted it before I printed this. But long story short, the town doesn't have a lot of information as far as I can find, and certainly not very precise information about how zoning is to be defined and how about this relationship with the elected representatives and an unelected body which has quasi-judicial power, whatever the hell that means. And so my long-term goal is to correct that. This is an issue for state law, for state government, to a great extent, not something we can actually do in a definitive fashion here. But since we've got a problem, which is the Route 100 development, and it's not just the dust, it's all the damage it'll do to the quality of life and the property value. I mean, we also need to think of this in economic terms on a long-term basis for the people that live there. You mentioned, Laura, something about...
Please finish up.
Huh?
Please finish up.
Okay.
You got 5 seconds.
Wow.
Yeah, it went by quick. Ed, that's 2 minutes. I'm going to cut you off. I said I would.
All right.
So please take a seat if you don't mind.
I would like to see a state law ultimately that will require demonstrating material value for the property adjoiners for a large process.
Please take a seat, Ed. Please take a seat.
Okay.
Thank you very
That's
much.
what this was not useful.
If you do want to share something with the board, you can send it to us. Okay.
And what would you do with it subsequently?
Not sure.
Well, and you can always request an agenda item.
Excuse me?
You can always request an agenda item, which would allow for a fuller discussion.
Well, you tell me how to do that.
Okay.
You know,
Anybody else would like to speak? Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Thea Alvin. I'm a Morristown resident. Just maybe a half an hour ago, I received a supplemental hearing recess order from the Act 250 Commission regarding an extreme tight timeline in supplying new information. They have requested that the applicant, which is MSI, would submit air and particulate samples about the quarry project, and that they would have an environmental monitoring system, workplace air sampling, and that the plan would establish the maximum amount of air pollutants that can be present without harming human health based on an annual average standard of PM 2.5 and PM 10. Following that, the adjoining parties, which includes this body and the town, has an opportunity to submit our own data. And I was wondering if we could have add a conversation about how can we sample the air as it is now undisturbed. Can we put together some kind of sampling monitoring system as a group so that we can establish what is our baseline before any quarrying begins?
Thank you, Theo. Anybody? Yes, come on up.
My name is Hillary Warner. I live on Olive Street here in Morrisville. In this season of Thanksgiving, I'd just like to thank each and every one of you for the incredible dedication and the time that you put in working on really, really hard problems. I just wanted to tell you how much I appreciate that.
Thank you. Anybody else? Thank you. That's very much appreciated. Anybody online? I don't see any hands.
I'd like to piggyback on top of that. We had the turkey trot on Thanksgiving, and Adele and Sarah and other people in town put a lot of effort into it. I think there's 260 runners that participated, and it went without a hitch as far as I know. I didn't hear any negative feedback, but I'd like to thank them for that.
Thank you, Richard. Okay, I'm going to move on. Approve the minutes. We have minutes from November 17th, 2025.
I'll move to approve the minutes of November 17, 2025.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
second.
That was pretty quick. Who wants it?
No,
So I got a motion by Richard, second by Laura. Any discussion regarding the minutes? Okay, all those in favor of the motion as presented, please say aye.
Aye.
Great, that would be unanimous. Thank you. New business. We have a presentation. We have a intern from University of Vermont, Jack Hagenson. I was going to say Hagenson. Okay, so Hagenson. Jack has done a lot of work. I think maybe part of that through LCPC. I'm not sure, but you have been working and looking at our town plan. And I know in our packet, we've got some pretty detailed suggestions for us. So go ahead.
All right. Hello. I'm Jack Higginson. I'm a student at the University of Vermont. I'm a junior this year. And yeah, I'm a community center design major. So I track and screen design, which is a lot of landscape architecture, sustainability courses. My main interest is in urban planning and urban design. So sort of looking at the shape of our cities and our towns and how we can improve the experiences of people living within them. I want to thank, obviously, the zoning and planning, as well as the town in general, for the opportunity to do an internship here this semester. It's been really valuable. With regards to what's in the packet, this was something that a memo I worked on with Ron Rogensky, and Tyler in zoning and planning as well were super helpful. And just in terms of my own learning about the process of town planning and town plan updates in Vermont, but also sort of some of the office work and processes that go into submitting zoning and approving zoning and looking at that. So the first thing in here is a recommendation about new zoning software. Working in the office, there was definitely, I was super grateful to be able to help out with some of the filing and doing some of the research and just sort of learning how that process works. But right now it's a pretty lengthy process at times, and there's a lot of filing. And so me and Tyler met with Cloud Permit as well as Civic Plus. And Civic Plus seems to be a very good opportunity in terms of improving the online engagement ability of residents to look up permit history, submit permits online, get approvals online. And they also have some other helpful features just in terms of tracking data and things that are going on within the town. But yes, and the main benefit too of Civic Plus is they're designed for smaller towns, and their fee setup is sort of a flat rate. It's not based on how many people are using it or how much data is being stored in there. Yeah, so that was the first thing. And then as well, the town plan timeline is just sort of, I was learning about it, but also for you to look through, just starting to think about the town plan updates now, because the state statutes require certain time periods for warning for meetings, and there's meetings at each stage of the process that have to happen by state statute. But also the Act 250 regulations require future land use planning maps, which is something that I discussed with Ron. And that's sort of changing and evolving, but taking the time during this planning process to really do those well and make sure everybody's involved. So there's a clarity at a town level, I suppose, would be helpful. And yeah, and then yeah, there's a lot of towns now are doing some engagement reports and just really pushing to have a really involved town plan process, whether it's creating a new plan or updating the existing plan, just to make sure that people are really getting the input in. And the state statutes are very clear that they want these processes to engage people in multiple different ways and be able to meet them where they're at. So one of the recommendations in here is just at a town level, starting to have some discussions and agreement on how this outreach is being done, in what ways, who's being involved, and that kind of thing. Yeah.
Great. Just a couple of quick comments from me. It's, it was nice to read through this. I know we get reminded on a regular basis about Civic Plus and what all it can do. I'm looking at Judy. She reminds me all the time. And so this is another really good reminder for us about moving more into the digital world. And I appreciate that. And the other thing is it's December 2025 right now, but Jack is reminding us that May 2030 is right around the corner when it comes to this town plan timeline. And there is a lot that needs to be done between now and, it's hard to believe, between now and May 2030. So we got 4.5 years to get really, it doesn't seem like we need anywhere near that much time. But when you look through your timeline, you see that we really do need that much time to get this all done. So for me anyways, and my guess is for the board, this is very, very much appreciated. Thank you. Thank you for all the work that you put together.
Yeah, and there's a little bit of buffer built in at the end and in some of the stages there, but it's important to have, so.
Other comments?
No, it's great. I went through the last town plan, and I will say it was a nightmare. just back and forth, and then it got rejected, so will help us streamline it, I think, and be far more efficient going into it. And transparent.
Glad I could help it in that process.
Any questions for Jack?
Thank you, Jack.
If I may,
Yes, go ahead.
I just want to thank Jack. He's a model intern for Morristown. Did a lot of good work, assisted us with doing some manual labor and learning the routine, but also looking at some of our processes and really vetting out what might be some improvements for the town. So really a pleasure to work with you, and you set a high standard for future interns. So thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much for the opportunity. Yeah.
And good luck at UVM.
Are you done officially now in your internship?
Yes.
Oh.
Don, is it all right if I'm just before Jack takes off, I just want to say, Jack, I really enjoyed working with you as well. You know, you did a great job. I threw a lot at you some days, so it was a little bit of drinking out of a fire hose. So you rose to the challenge every time. So I just wanted to reiterate that I really enjoyed working with you, and best of luck and rest of your college career and as you move off into the workforce. So just wanted to make sure I got a chance to say that before you took off. Thanks.
Thank you, Tyler.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tyler, for bringing him in as well and working with him. Okay, if there's no other questions, I'm going to move on. Okay, number 2, we have a private road named Cooper's Landing, and we had some information in our packet here. So they're asking us to approve the name Cooper's Landing for a new road that's off of Elizabeth Lane. The information's in our packet. This is put together by Dale Percy from Stowe. And they would like to install the sign if we do in fact go forward with this. So I guess I would entertain a motion at this point.
I'll move to approve the new private road named Cooper's Landing and authorize Chairman Don McDowell to sign.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll say.
So I have a motion by Richard and a second by Leah. Any discussion, any questions board members have given what's in the packet? I know 911 has looked at this. It doesn't sound like there's any conflicting road names in town. Okay. Hearing no discussion, then I would ask you, all those in favor of the motion as presented, please say aye.
Aye.
And that would be unanimous. Thank you. I didn't ask Kevin if you wanted to add anything to that last agenda item, but okay. We have another, and Kevin's here to talk about this as well. We have an errors and omission certificate. This is for Caitlin Brew, Robert Laughlin, and Maureen and Douglas Laughlin. Span number 414-129-12160. And we're looking to change for this property from $0 to $408,000. So that's obviously a difference of $408,000. And looks like this account was inadvertently deactivated, and it was probably during a routine address update in February of 2025, resulting in no tax bill being sent to the owners. From what I've heard, the owners were kind enough to let us know that a mistake had been made. So that's nice to hear.
Yes, it is.
I would entertain a motion.
I'll move to approve and sign the errors and omissions certificate as presented.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
So I have a motion by Richard and a second by Laura. Discussion. Okay, hearing none. All those in favor of the motion as presented, please say aye.
Aye.
That would be unanimous as well. Number 4, the consideration to appoint Lisa Zinn to the Morristown Conservation Commission. Don't know if Lisa's in the room. I don't think so. Okay. We did get her application and I, for one, would say she seems very qualified. And I'm assuming the Morristown Conservation Commission is behind this. Jerry, would you like to say something?
Jerry Throne, Chair, Morristown Conservation Commission. Yes, Lisa applied for one of the open positions. We're very much impressed with her background and her experience. As you've probably read through the interest form that she submitted, she's an associate professor of natural science, Department of Vermont State University. She's a primary professor at Johnson for both the environmental science major as well as the wildlife and forest conservation major. And she has a doctoral degree in natural resources. She does a lot of things environmentally related. She does banding of birds. And so there's an awful lot that she has to offer us. And we think she would be an excellent add to the board.
I agree, Jerry. Just reading through this, she seems perfectly suited to join the board, to join the commission. Yeah.
Agreed.
Okay. I would entertain a motion.
I'll move to appoint Lisa Zinn to the Morristown Conservation Commission to the remaining 4-year term, which expires on March 3rd, 2026.
So I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
So a motion by Richard, second by Laura. Any discussion or anything else anybody wants to add?
Did work with Lisa when I was at NVU. She was a member of the faculty. I know she was, students enjoyed her classes and she was quite an asset to the faculty. So
right.
I certainly would endorse that.
Good to hear. Good to hear. Okay, any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor of the motion as presented, please say aye.
Aye.
And that would be unanimous. Okay, number 5. Approve and sign notice of lien on real property 13 First Street. So we have information in our packet. We also have a letter from the town clerk's office in regards to this issue in support of what's in our packet as well. And it would seem that this on First Street, this is an abandoned property and the owner of the property is planning to remove this mobile home. That's my understanding, and has reminded us that there are back taxes that need to be paid, and has suggested to us as a board that we should be placing a lien on this property to make sure we get that money.
Try.
I believe I'm gonna guess it's the owner, which is Nadine Sybeck. I'm not sure who that individual is.
Looks like it could be a foreclosure to me.
Ashley Wells is the record owner
Curious as
of
to
the mobile home.
Of the mobile home, right? Whether, so this is just the lien on the property. And so potentially the mobile home could be another issue that we have to address.
The landowner is Ship 72 LLC. So the mobile home it's a rental lot, I would say.
Yeah.
So the mobile home is on the lot, but
And the owners is planning to remove the mobile home. Is that your understanding of this?
That's,
The LLC is going to remove them.
they might not
Yep.
remove it at all. They might just sell it.
Okay.
And if they sell it, we have a lien on the mobile home. We can obtain the back taxes.
Okay. Thank you, Brent. So I would entertain a motion then.
I'll move to approve and sign the notice of lien on real property against the real estate of Ashley Wells located at 13 First Street for delinquent property taxes totaling $607.69 plus interest, penalty, costs, and collection fees for the tax years 2022 to 2025.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, I got a motion by Richard and a second by George. Discussion. Hey, first of all, one sec, any comments from the board first?
We paying legal fees to collect this money? I mean, it's $607, which,
You know, having been part of all those abatement discussions over the years, there always seems to be a little fee, maybe in terms of a letter that we need a lawyer to send out.
so we're just putting a lien on so that when they go to sell it, that we get our money, but we're not actively pursuing this money. I just don't want us to cost thousands of dollars if we're
yeah.
after $600.
Yeah.
No, so the lien will be
Good
filed with the
question.
town clerk's office if there is a sale of the property.
We got our money.
Yep.
Just thank you for that clarification.
Yep.
Thea Alvin, Morrisville. I had a quick question that you may or may not know the answer to, but the Pinecrest Trailer Park had received a $500,000 grant to improve their water infrastructure and to remove the lead pipes. I wondered if anybody knew if that had been enacted or used yet as a state grant.
No idea. But I would say that's not part of the agenda item, but I
don't know if
that's
it
a good question.
Reaches into that
Yeah,
area of involvement at all.
right. Yeah. Good question for administration, maybe at some point. Okay. Any other comments? Okay, all those in favor of the motion as presented, please say aye.
Aye.
That would be unanimous. Next, we welcome back Mr. St. Ange, Jordan. Jordan's our highway superintendent, and he's going to give us a presentation on the Bridge and Infrastructure Fund. Welcome.
Thank you. Yeah, Jordan St. Ange, and here today to talk about the Bridge and Infrastructure Fund and our plans for the coming summer. Starting off in your packet here, are you able to pull up the PowerPoint, or were you not gonna?
I did not even think that far ahead.
I think we'll be all right. So starting off the first slide, if you have the packet, this is a quote and a graph from the GPI pavement condition analysis done last year. And it's a reminder of the importance of repairing our paved roads. So the quote here is: the strategy of fixing the roads in very poor condition instead of preserving good roads is known as the worst first approach and is generally regarded as the least cost-effective strategy. The explanation for this is that the roads are allowed to deteriorate until they are very poor and then spend large sums of money to make repairs, rather than smaller expenditures that keep the roads in good condition for a longer period of time. The common analogy is changing the oil in your car is more cost effective than waiting for the engine to seize and then replacing the engine. So we've been stuck in this cycle for quite some time now. And last year we took the first steps towards breaking that cycle. I think it's vital that we keep this momentum and continue catching up on deferred maintenance with our paved roads. So in 2025, we paved 3.8 miles of roads, but we still have 15.6 miles in poor to very poor condition. If we pave roughly 4 miles a year, we can catch up in 4 more years. We have here, in this next slide, is a breakdown of what we would like to pave this coming year. And starting off is the 1.5 miles of Randolph Road nearest Route 100. And that can be fixed with a shim and an overlay. And then the remainder of Bridge Street from where we left off at the Favreau Bridge, skipping Route 100, obviously, heading down to Katie's Falls. That can also be fixed with a shim and overlay. These are both Class 2 roadways, so they would be included in our Class 2 roadway grant application for 2026. Needle Eye Road has completely failed. It needs a full reclaim. There's no saving that road. The shape, it's fallen. Sunset and DeMars can be fixed with a shim and overlay. And the next one on the list is the first 1/2 mile of Lower Elmore Mountain Road, which can be fixed with a shim and overlay. But the rest of the road after that needs more work. That's, I believe, Town Hill Road. So that section of Lower Elmore is our best option for reducing costs on this paving project. This option here shows a full reclaim, which is an estimated 15 to 20 year fix. That's the same thing that we did to Cody Hill and the far end of Walton Road.
Okay.
The second option here, that section of road that we're talking about, the farther end section of Lower Elmore Mountain Road headed towards gravel. That section is very rough, but it still has decent shape to it. So I've driven it with some paving contractors and we're confident that we could save it without reclaiming it. That would save $92,000. And what we would do is we would give it a heavy shim layer and then an overlay. That would be an estimated 10 to 15 year fix. So it's, you know, it's still a good long-term fix, not quite as long as a reclaim. But it's certainly a way to save some money.
You said that was $92,000 savings.
Yeah, 92,000. We could increase that savings to 192,000 by reclaiming that section and then leaving it gravel. It's a relatively flat section of road and it'd be pretty easy to keep in good condition. So it's another option to consider there.
And are you looking for a decision from us tonight in regards to which one of these options to go forward with?
No, I think I'm not necessarily looking for that. We'll get a little bit further in right now as to, you know, what the Bridge and Infrastructure Fund looks like and, you know, how much money we have to be going after these projects. But that is kind of the state and the direction that we're trying to go with the paved roads for this coming summer.
Okay.
So I'll talk about sidewalks next, but first, is there any questions about the paved or anything that you'd like me to elaborate on?
I will say, I went to Thanksgiving on Lower Elmore Road, Mountain Road, and it definitely needs some love.
Yeah, it needs it. And that, you know, that's an access road for the hospital coming in from the top side. So I think that first half mile, that's in pretty good shape. I think it's a no-brainer to shim and overlay that and save it. But it's one of those roads that it's pretty flat. It goes to gravel anyways. You know, I've heard oftentimes people talking about, you know, when we're trying to catch up on all this deferred maintenance, if it really makes sense, if some roads should be returned to gravel. And if ever there was a road that would fit that bill, this is the one. So I think it's an important conversation to have and for you all to decide if it's worth the money to pave it or if it should just be gravel like the rest of the road.
Yeah. Okay.
So moving on to sidewalks. In 2025, we replaced 1,100 feet of sidewalk, but there's still 6,000 feet in town that's in very poor condition. Again, if we replace 1,500 feet per year, we can catch up in 4 more years. So this is kind of using last year as the first year of a 5-year plan, trying to get caught up on our deferred maintenance. So we've been awarded the VTrans small scale bicycle pedestrian grant, and that's for 800 feet of new curb and sidewalk on Elmore Street, leaving town headed up towards Water and Light. The grant total for that is $150,000, but it has a town match of 50%, which would be $75,000. Of that $75,000 match, we can do $25,000 of it in kind, in-house with our crews, similar to how we did Court and East High Street. We would do the removal, we would do the sub-base repairs, all the trucking, traffic, that type of thing. So to move forward with that grant would be $50,000 out of the Bridge and Infrastructure Fund. In conjunction with that, we would want to continue with what we did this previous year with our town forces doing the spot panel replacements and more replacements through town to the total of about 700 feet of sidewalk, which in conjunction with this grant would bring us up to our 1,500 feet per year. So with those town crews, I'd be estimating that we'd be taking about 25,000 out of Bridge and Infrastructure. So there's a big price difference here. It's similar lengths, but obviously big money difference. And it's because these sections that we'd be tackling with our in-house crew do not involve the granite curb. So last year we significantly increased our in-house skill set with pouring new sidewalks. The long runs of granite curb are still outside of our wheelhouse in-house to be doing.
Can you, I'm sorry to interrupt. Jordan, can you just clarify that? Is it granite curb going up Elmore Street or is it poured concrete?
It would be granite curb.
Okay, thank you.
Who's that?
Sorry, it's Josh. Sorry to interrupt.
Yep.
So this next slide here shows the Bridge and Infrastructure Fund balance. And actually not included here, but I forgot to add was $10,000 that the board committed for the bike and pedestrian scoping grant that Mason County was involved in. So this shows where we currently stand with our Bridge and Infrastructure Fund. We're still negotiating our invoice for paving with SD Ireland. We're hoping for a decrease in that number. We also capitalized with this paving with $134,000 worth of grants and a contribution from Morrisville Water and Light due to the water main break at the Bijou. Moving on from 2025 paving, we were also awarded a $200,000 grant to paint the Favorite Bridge. That bridge is made out of A588 weathering steel, which is not well suited for our winters. And all the steel surfaces that are not hit by rain have significant rust and material loss. And if it's not painted soon, it'll become structurally compromised, much like the Katie's Falls Bridge. So we have, this was when I was writing the grant, this was this $286,000 number for the project. And I'd like to thank Gary Throne for providing me with a long list of bridge painting contractors that might be interested in the work. So with that list, we've been able to launch an RFP, and that's out now. And we're hoping to reduce that project cost. I know it sounds like a lot of money for painting, but it's an expensive project that involves setting up staging and containment around the bridge, media blasting it, making sure nothing's falling into the river, and then several coats of a specialized paint after that.
What's the lifespan of that once we paint it?
I believe that was like a 35 to 40 years of life out of the paint. And then at that point, it would potentially need repainting.
We know how long ago it was that this was painted?
That what was painted?
Never been painted.
Oh, it's never been painted.
No, so the A588 weathering steel is like, I don't know if you guys golf, the trusty rusty golf clubs that are designed to have surface rust form, and then that's the end of it. But that's more suited for a southern climate. So it's a raw steel that's designed to have surface rust. And if you drive by it and you look at it, some of the exposed stuff that you see, it looks like it's doing what it's supposed to. But if you get underneath it and look at the cross members or the underneath of the webbing, the areas that aren't, hit by the rain and wash frequently, they've started to scale.
It's a good question, Laura. And just to follow up on Laura's question, how long is it going to last if it doesn't get painted?
That's yeah. I think that's
Much shorter, obviously.
Much shorter. Yeah. And it's I could certainly, get in touch with some bridge experts and get an estimate, but it's, once it rusts, you're not getting it back. So the more rust we allow to happen, the shorter the lifespan.
And Jordan has captured a grant for 2/3 of this cost. So
yeah, it's great.
Yeah, so that the total project of that 286 would be down to 86,000, and hopefully, there's all sorts of things that I have in here where we're still actively trying to reduce these numbers, but I think these are the numbers that we need to really plan around if we want to be able to achieve this work. So for the 2026 paving, this number that I have in here is based off of leaving the section of Elmore Mountain Road that we talked about, leaving it gravel. So if we were to go with the shim and overlay, that's another 100,000 on here. We'll also be applying for the Class 2 roadways grant again for 2026. And that maxes out at $200,000.
Okay, so that assumes that Elmore Mountain Road section gets turned to gravel.
Gets turned to gravel. And if you want to keep it paved, then you need to add back in another 100,000 into here. Okay. So you're talking, right off the bat with the 10 grand for the bike and ped, you're talking $600,000 being needed in the bridge and infrastructure fund to accomplish all of this. And if you want to keep that section paved, you're going back up to around $700,000 being needed in the bridge and infrastructure fund in order to continue catching up on this deferred maintenance.
Yeah, go ahead, George.
Jordan, the Class 2 roadways grant, which I've applied for, we got guaranteed yet, right?
Yeah, so I have the dates in here. The application hasn't even happened yet, so that's still a ways out. I believe the applications are due, deadline is April 15th, and they're awarded generally July 9th. Our last one was awarded.
Assuming we were to get to the.
I believe it's 10%. Thanks to adopting the state road and bridge standards. I believe it went from 20% down to 10%, if my memory serves me.
If we maxed out, we need to come up with $20,000 locally.
For income.
And 200.
Yeah, we can get a small portion of it in kind with the shoulder gravel. Not a huge amount, but we can get some of it.
But this is vastly state money, not local. If you're at 90%.
Yeah, for that 200,000, which we would apply to Randolph and Bridge are the class 2 roads on here that would be part of that.
Okay, thank you, George.
Any other questions before we go?
Sidewalk questions, but
Yeah, we can do sidewalk questions.
so is there a map of sidewalks? Because sidewalks have been kind of a hot topic for a long time. Because those of us not living in the village don't have sidewalks. So there's always controversy about why are the town people paying for sidewalks that aren't usable? As in town, there's lots of sidewalks behind that. I mean, I'm not gonna go strolling around so, you know, if I'm going to the hospital or the main roads, it makes sense, but. So do you have a map and are those designated what we're paying for?
My kind of what I did, I believe LCPC did one, was that a map?
Yeah, last year we had LCPC do a survey for the town of our sidewalks and conditions. So there is a map with conditions. It's now a year old because this past summer we did work on some of the sidewalks, but the map is available.
So can we look at that map and determine if they are private use, put that money or get money from the village? Because the village, you know, if it's a sidewalk in front of somebody's house that's not one that people normally stroll on, and certainly I as a town person, I'm not gonna come in. Is there a way to allocate some of the expense of the sidewalks to the village? Seems fair to me.
I can't speak for the trustees or Scott, but they might say, I'm just guessing, they might say that X number of years ago, the town and the village came to an agreement on what infrastructure we're both responsible for. So we're responsible for water and sewer, and you're responsible for roads and sidewalks. Now, I can't state that for them. I'm just like trying to foresee how they might respond.
That's my recollection too, that there was some agreement between the select board and the village trustees a number of years ago. And that we took over the roads and the sidewalks in the village.
Again, I know this comes up every year, and granted, if there's sidewalks down to Oxbow and major sidewalks that everybody uses, the controversy is always the ones that are back in the neighborhoods that no one uses. I mean, I'd love a sidewalk in my neighborhood. So just playing devil's advocate here.
Can we offer comments or do I need to wait?
We'll give you a chance in just a sec, Josh.
Thank you.
I want to give Jordan a chance to finish his presentation as well.
It's pretty significant. So again.
Yeah, and so the way that I've been dealing with the sidewalks is I use LCPC's map as a starting point, and I've created some Excel spreadsheets with lengths, condition, and we ranked them with how highly trafficked we imagine they are. So if that's something the select board would like to consider with eliminating some sidewalks, I could certainly put together a list that are, you know, some ones that are poor, that are on a dead end street, that, you know, similar to the idea of returning Elmore Mountain Road to gravel, they could be returned to lawn.
That would be interesting information to have, you know, if there are if some of these sidewalks that are in very poor condition are, as Laura's suggesting, sidewalks that they're dead end roads or not really going anywhere, they're not used. Yeah, I think that would be valuable information to have. I'm not sure what all those qualifiers would be that.
Yeah, I mean, this would be a good platform to put it out there and, you know, put it ahead of time. And if people want to come in and speak to the value of that sidewalk to them, then.
If the sidewalks have been voted down, money for sidewalks have been voted down for this exact reason. So it'd be great if we could get in front of it and get the sidewalks we need.
Yeah,
but we need to know that, like, some of the zoning and planning requirements are that there are sidewalks installed for some of these places. So to say that project A has to have a sidewalk in front of it, we're gonna reduce a sidewalk in a town neighborhood. That's the concern that I have. I don't think that we can really just arbitrarily as a board say we're gonna get rid of these sidewalks when we're putting requirements on people where they're, in my opinion, we've built some sidewalks that are sidewalks to nowhere. That shouldn't have been built. So we put requirements out there, for people to do that. So throw up stuff that's already been there for 50 years. I don't know if that's
Yeah.
and it will be an easy sell.
Yeah, I can think of a few projects up in that Hannaford's area where exactly what you're talking about happened.
Yeah, but you're mixing up business with personal. No, I mean, I was on DRB, let me tell you, the sidewalks you're talking about or nowhere are generally businesses. And the thought is that they're all going to join up so that people can walk through town. But that's very different from a house that's,
I'm thinking of one in particular that was.
there's some nutty ones, I give you that.
I'm just saying, that's
Yeah.
something that's a requirement that we have currently in our zoning. For certain areas that have to have sidewalks if they're in the town. That's all I'm saying.
I think as far as tonight's concerned, Jordan's already said that he would get us a list of ones that we might want to take a look at, and we can do that at a future meeting.
Yep. So back to the bridge and infrastructure, looking at these numbers and trying to come up with funding for that number, reducing the bridge and infrastructure fund to zero leaves us in a vulnerable position should, the need for emergency funds arise. So planning a $50,000 balance after debits would leave us an insurance policy and a start to the following year. So adding $641,000 to the bridge and infrastructure fund and utilizing the $275,000 in secured grants would allow us to meet these goals. And we'll add 10 back to that for the scoping grant, the portion of the grant for the bike ped scoping. And then if you do want to keep that section of Elmore Mountain Road paved, you'd have to add another 100 to that. So you're talking 650 or 750 is kind of where you're at. So last year, voters approved 2 cents on the dollar. That raised $233,500 for the bridge and infrastructure fund. So based on the fiscal year 25-26 grand list, it would take around a 5.5 cent on the dollar tax increase to raise this money for the bridge and infrastructure funds. So talk. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm thinking the obvious. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think we all are. So timeframes, communities that plan ahead and have reserve funds available at the start of the year obtain more competitive pricing when going out to bid. And since voter approval isn't granted until March, contractors have that time to secure other work, and that limits competition and inevitably drives up prices. The sooner we can get our request for bids out, the hungrier contractors are, and the better pricing we're going to get. So if we had reserve funds available and could go out for bid in January or February would be ideal, we'd likely receive lower pricing and more favorable scheduling to try and get our paving done earlier in the year. I know that's always been a big struggle here, as we're always happening again this year. We're up against winter closing in, trying to wrap up paving, and the earlier we can have that money available, so a reserve fund would be an ideal thing for us to be able to get the most competitive prices and scheduling.
This is mostly an FYI tonight, or are you looking for some direction from the board?
This is to inform you and the public. And next week I'll be giving my budget presentation. Last year, the capital projects, highway infrastructure came after mine. So it switched up a little bit between last year and this year, but that's for a good reason. Jordan's expecting, and I wanted to make sure that he got this presentation in for the public and the select board. You all didn't miss out.
Okay. Well, first of all, thank you, Jerry, for helping out with the painting contractors. This, assumes there's that 4-year assumption built into this that we can get a lot of paving done in 4 years, a lot of sidewalks done in 4 years, which would be wonderful to be able to get all that done. I'm just wondering, 5.5 cents is a lot, knowing what we asked of the taxpayers last year. But we don't need to decide that tonight. I mean, I think I'm stating the obvious, as I said before, that yeah, go ahead, Larry.
How much of this supplies and that is subject to tariffs? Are we running any risk of hitting much higher pricing because of tariffs? Or is all of this, most of this product that we find local?
For the paving, for the sidewalks, for,
All of it.
I mean, you're talking mostly aggregates, which are locally sourced, the
No.
concrete, granite curb is local, well, local to New England. You have petroleum prices for the asphalt, the liquid is what fluctuates the most in the asphalt pricing. So, petroleum prices.
Thank you.
Personally, I think the biggest concern is the other one doing raise. It's not the tariffs, it's the scheduled bidding. In bidding January, February is absolutely a better time when the contractors are hungry.
Yeah,
When they're looking to fill in the gaps in their work schedules.
Yeah.
They're not as interested, and they'll be interested when the prices are higher. That's nothing we can do right now. We haven't got enough of reserve fund to
yeah,
have that conversation, but it's a long-term conversation that we should have reserve enough to almost build for next year on the schedule that we want.
Yep.
And then be able to bid at the right time and guarantee these people work because the money's already there. We're not at that point. That I think we can see if we could do something with that. And that's not an easy thing to do. Talking about $600,000 in a reserve fund. This rolling all the time is a tough task. But timing of bidding is huge.
it's huge. And I think, some of the other paving contract, we got great competitive pricing this year, but some of the other contractors that I would have loved to have in town, they had full books of work. So we saw higher prices from them. And I think something that's very important to keep in mind, and I talked about keeping the momentum going, and it's one of those things where I feel like we really need to catch up quick, because the light at the end of the tunnel is getting rid of all our poor and our very poor and getting to where we can just do 3/4 inch paver shim overlays, that more inexpensive maintenance. But the longer we wait, the more roads are going to fall into that poor and very poor condition. So that's why I think it's crucial to keep that momentum going. And that's why I've been designing all this around a 5-year plan, so that we can, get the deferred maintenance behind us, get on a good schedule. And that's the light at the end of the tunnel, where we start seeing, a much smaller paving bill every year and better infrastructure for our community.
Others?
Can I-
Insect Laura, just Leah?
I appreciate the information you've shared. I was a fan of the 5-year plan last year. I appreciate the detail that you've given, and I appreciate that the thoughtfulness regarding roads that can go back to gravel. I am interested in seeing the sidewalk map in totality rather than just a recommendation of sidewalks. That's good information to have. Thank you.
Richard? Oh, good.
Thank you.
Laura?
Brent, because this is, my understanding is this 2 cents that we voted on is in perpetuity until we change it. Is that correct? Or was it just last
Just
year?
for 1 year.
So that,
Separate article last year.
so it wasn't continual.
No.
We would have to vote for it again. Thank you.
Other comments from I see the hand up on line. 1 second. Any other comments from the board? Go ahead, Josh. Or no, that's Tyler.
Did you want me or did you want Josh?
Yeah, which one do you
Well,
want?
we got you right now. Go ahead, Tyler.
Yeah, I think the only thing, if you guys are going to have that conversation about a sidewalk, I mean, it probably, in addition to the money, you would want to look at your sidewalk policy, because that's what I use for new development and stuff like that goes to the Development Review Board. Because for multifamily housing, any of those commercial projects, if they're in a certain district, which is basically the water sewer district, more or less, they're required to build a sidewalk, even if it's the only piece of sidewalk that's out there.
Okay, thank you, Tyler. Josh, was there?
Yeah, so same, I would kind of echo that. There are sidewalks to nowhere, I think Richard commented on. And we have gotten many sidewalks built in town by developers that we've had the opportunity to continue. Jersey Heights is my hot button topic. We were trying to create a walkable town all the way from every school to every school, and that failed. I think we should continue pursuing that. Laura, just to your comments, I understand sidewalks in town aren't necessary, or in the village rather, aren't necessarily beneficial to people out in the town. However, they're creating livability, walkability, where it's contributing to the grand list, which makes this cost go down because we're all throwing into the general fund or whatever the proper term is. Like, we want people to come here and live here, and if they can't walk on their streets, I don't want to eliminate more sidewalks. I think we're a better town if we have more sidewalks, and I think George's doing a great job. I just want to comment on that. I'll save most of what I wanted to say, but I think it's great, and we should look forward, catch up, and build. Like,
Thank you. That was just for the record, Josh Goldstein too. Any other comments?
One last question. When are we gonna start looking at dirt roads? Fixing dirt roads? Did I stump you there?
No, we
I know you're working on them all the time. Is there any long-term plan for the ones that need major?
that is something where I think that's another 5 years is kind of the goal that we've been marching to. And that's one where we're more in-house with our forces and there's no ask for money. So that's why you don't see me presenting it here. But in my last presentation of the select board, I detailed the extensive work that we did.
Right.
And we plan to continue that extensive work for the foreseeable future.
Is there a schedule? Because I've been asking for work on my road for 8 years now.
That,
So that's,
as we
what's the
saw
schedule?
with this past
Yeah.
year, Mother Nature and the winter
Yeah.
and the melt has dictated our schedule. And you know, we're going around and the dirt roads and the ditches and all that is constantly evolving. So we
Okay.
don't have a list of which roads need to go.
You don't have a priority list.
Not like you're asking for, no.
Okay.
So if I could clarify, just to provide more context, let's take this past year. Jordan provided me with a list of dirt roads that they're going to be working on. May hit. And we think of the last few years, 23, 24, there wasn't much flooding last year, right? It was a pretty good year. Well, it hammered some of our dirt roads. And so they spent how many weeks having to install new ditches and rebuild roads that they weren't planning on doing this past summer. So when he talks about Mother Nature and weather, even with a rather mild summer, our dirt roads got hammered, and not all of them, particular ones. So that really impacted at least 3 weeks of your schedule, if I recall.
Yeah, I think it was around 4 weeks we lost. It was 18 roads that were significantly damaged. And, you know, gravel roads, it's just the nature of the beast. They're constantly evolving. So it's, you know, we'll
So I
catch
guess
up.
my question is, now that you're in place, because I've talked with every highway person that's come through, how does a person get on your list of to do, not a schedule, but an awareness that it needs work?
I mean, we have awareness of all of our gravel roads, and the roads and Mother Nature dictate our list. It's not who screams the loudest or who thinks that their road needs it the most. It's we watch all of our roads. We see which roads are most vulnerable to being washed out completely, and the roads dictate our schedule for the gravel roads.
And I do want to say gravel roads have been worked upon
Much appreciate.
tremendously this year than I have seen in the last, well, I was going to say 35 years, but I'm not going to go back that far, but certainly in the last 10 years, there's been a big change, and it's and people have noticed, but I think we all hear what you're saying loud and clear.
Serious, very serious ditch work and culvert work.
There's lots of them out there, and we're getting around, and it's kind of a cumulative thing. The more we get these roads into good shape, the less they wash out. So the more time we have to make improvements versus repairs. And this year we started with repairs. As soon as we were done with repairs, we went to improvements, and that's going to continue, and we'll get there.
Thank you. You answered my question.
I also want to give one more perspective. So this spreadsheet that I provided to all of you, one of the important things that I want to give Kevin a shout out again for building this, but you'll notice that it includes town highway miles. And if you look at Morristown compared to all the others on this list, we're at the top for miles. So this town has a lot of miles of road maintenance. And so I specifically wanted this on this spreadsheet with other data so that you know, when you're looking and making decisions as a legislative body of this town, you have perspective and you can compare it to other communities, not only around us, but similar size throughout the state.
Yeah, I was going to comment on this later, but thank you, Kevin, for this. This is just incredible information that we have, and we can do a very quick comparison. Yeah, Morristown in particular has 92 miles of road. There's nobody else in Lamoille County that's frankly that close. So it's pretty significant. Mr. Throne, you've been waiting for a while.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I just wanted to comment on what I thought I heard earlier about the Favreau Bridge painting and rusting situation. If I heard correctly, the question is like, why is it deteriorating? And the reason is because weathering steel, A588 steel, is supposed to develop a crust when it's first exposed to the atmosphere, when it first gets wet. And that crust is supposed to protect it from rusting any further. But what happens is, if it's put into a situation where it's continuously wet, then it continues to rust. Another factor is whether or not you have harsh chemicals acting on it. And road salt is spread very liberally for quite a few months out of the year. And those areas that are exposed to the spray from the vehicles because of the salt being put down, it just impacts the steel, unprotected steel, greatly. What could be done, although it's not a fix, but what could be done is if it was decided to have a maintenance program to wash all the steel at the end of every winter, that would help. It will not solve the problem, but it would help. Right now you have a lot of section loss. I brought this to a town manager's attention when he first took the position. And we've been working on it, getting this bridge painted ever since. So, the underneath part of the bridge, that gets wet. And if the sun can't beat on it and dry it, it stays wet. That's why.
Thank you, Jerry.
Okay.
Appreciate it. We appreciate it. Any other comments?
Can I ask you? No.
Is there any other questions or any other comments? We can do that in a second. We can get Jerry back up to the microphone in a second. So I'll give everybody a chance. I did say we'd have a second 2-minute period on each agenda item. I think you have a question coming your way, sir. If you want to come back up and expend your other 2 minutes. Go ahead, George.
So Jerry, you said if we wash the bridge. Does that mean just basically put a hose to it, or is that a scrub job, or what does a wash mean?
Power wash.
A power wash. Okay.
That would help save it from deteriorating any further until the next winter season when the salts are applied again. Underneath the bridge, though, it is what it is. The sun doesn't get to it. And so what I was going to say is that most highway departments will require these steel used for these types of bridges at the place where water gets in, which is at the end of the bridge, joints, places like that, that the steel be painted for a distance of 5 feet. That protects that steel from a continuation of water going through the joints of the bridge.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other questions for Jordan while he's here, or questions about the presentation? Okay, well, thank you once again, Jordan. You know, I think we've all noticed you've been on board for just over a year now, and things have, turned around or changed tremendously here in Morristown, and definitely appreciate it. It's not perfect yet, but I know you got your eyes set on that perfection down the road, and we do appreciate that.
Good luck on your pregnancy.
Yes, good luck to your wife. Okay, so moving on, update on the town of Elmore EMS. Brent, I'm going to pass it over to you.
I had invited a member of an Elmore resident who was selected for a special committee that was put together by the Elmore Selectboard to address the select board tonight. He will not be attending, and you'll recall in June, at the direction of the select board, I sent a letter to Elmore asking them to get back to us with information in October about continuing our servicing the Elmore community. The individual had originally reached out to me to basically go over with me what I think he's going to be presenting to the Elmore Select Board. And I urged him to speak directly to the Select Board tonight, because it's not important that he share the information with me. You all had asked for this information in October. It's now December, and I tried to also explain that we have a budget that we're trying to put together. Unfortunately, he's not been able to present to the Elmore Select Board, and plan is to present to the Morristown Select Board sometime in January. There's no firm date yet. That causes a slight predicament for me, because I'm going to be conservative and put a 0 in the budget for any potential revenue. And so I just wanted to let you all know that. And they did not go out for RFP either, which is their prerogative. But I know that was important. The select board thought that maybe there'd be a better understanding of costs for running a EMS service in Vermont in this time, and where really you're seeing EMS services throughout the country failing because of budget issues. So just wanted to share that with all of you and prepare you for my budget presentation on the 8th. That there'll be a 0 on that line item for revenue, and invite any conversation or questions you might have.
I think putting in 0 on the budget makes all the sense in the world. We've got to let the taxpayers know what the current situation is. The frustrating part of this is, as you well know, Brent, you and I went to the Elmore Select Board meeting back in June. So this has been on their radar for 6 months now. I know when I talked to Brent earlier today, I was just shaking my head about this, like, how long is this going to take? But so we've been waiting a long time. And October 3rd was when they were originally supposed to get back to us 2 months ago. And they haven't. So, but we have a responsibility to the Morristown taxpayers, and we need to put that 0 on the revenue line, because that's what it is right now. We can't put some other number in there and then explain later that, oh, oops, we made a mistake. They didn't talk to us. We just assumed they would give us the money. So.
Yeah, can I?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so these are the draft minutes of the Elmore Select Board meeting from November 5th, 2025. and they haven't met since, so they're still in draft. As part of that, there was an update / discussion about Morrisville EMS support and the EMS advisory board status. And I'm just going to read it. Notes, George Kress, is that the person you've been speaking?
Yes.
It reported the following. Bullet 1. The EMS advisory committee held its 3rd meeting on October 28th at 6 p.m. All committee members were present. Second bullet, they discussed their requests for data on EMS calls to Elmore from the Vermont State Emergency Management System, SRIEN data. I don't know what that stands for. All in caps. Data administration, and from Morristown. The data is forthcoming. Third bullet. Further, the advisory committee discussed various metrics that might be useful in valuing the benefit of EMS provided to Elmore. They developed a series of pricing scenarios for consideration. They will refine the scenarios using the forthcoming data from Siren and Morristown. The advisor, it says advisor, but I think they mean advisory. The advisory committee's next meeting is scheduled for December 9th, 2025 at 6 p.m. This is where they're at. No further comment. This is where they're at.
They are a 3-person board, because I did say that
They are.
they're trying to go up.
The
to
select
5.
board's 3. They're trying to go up to 5. I think they have a meeting in January too. Or at least that's the plan. Anything else from the board? Are you good?
Oh, yeah.
Any comments from the public? Okay, I'm gonna move on. Thank you. Discuss the local options, local options tax sales in particular. So, as regulars to the meeting, regular listeners to the meeting know, we talked a couple of months ago about bringing local options tax certainly to the select board for discussion. We've talked about the rooms tax. That was 4 weeks ago. We talked about short-term rentals. That's not a local options tax, but we talked about that 2 weeks ago. And tonight we are talking about sales tax. And in our packet is some data on sales tax and what sales tax could mean to the town. The data that we have presented here is for 2024. There's estimated data for 2025, but I think this would suffice for tonight. And it shows that when it comes to the local options tax, the sales tax is the cat's meow, I guess, in terms of dollar values, in terms of the money that it can bring in. You know, we're talking over $1 million using the 2024 data. It's not even, the others aren't even close. So this is something that we need to discuss. I guess we need to discuss it, where we all feel or where we stand with this, but more importantly, at some point here very soon, we need to decide if and how we're going to bring it to the taxpayers, the voters in Morristown, to decide upon this issue.
That's a good quick question. This is a clarification.
Yeah.
In interest of time, because we go around and around. Basically, our job currently is not, we don't have the power to collect this. We have the power to put it on the budget for the taxpayers to decide. Is that correct?
We have the ability certainly to let the taxpayers decide, or the voters to decide upon whether or not to put a local options tax in place. And we, of course, have the authority to word that article in whatever way we want. We've talked about whether we want to put sales tax separate from meals and alcohol in rooms, or whether we want to put them all together. So those are things that we have to decide as well.
So I guess my concern is because, and I think most everybody here have already decided whether they think it should be on the budget. And because these are huge conversations
On the budget?
on the ballot, I'm sorry, on the ballot. We get bogged down in the details because everybody's got an opinion. And so I think we're better served really focusing in on what our job is, and is that we think, regardless of whether we're for it or against it, should it go to vote and decide where the money needs to go. Then the bigger conversations are after we get this, once we get it decided that it's going on the ballot, then the conversations are the validity of the taxes and the pros and cons. I think we spend an enormous amount of time, and we've been doing this for a year and a half on the pros and cons. And we're just going in circles. So I'm just trying to be efficient. And, I certainly am, know whether I want stuff on the ballot or not. So I'm just trying to streamline this so we don't get bogged down. And then, we give everybody a chance.
Yeah, I think you've raised a good point there. Ultimately, I think the really important question is, do we let the voters decide? And how do we word that article?
Yeah.
So that do we let the voters, and the taxpayers, do we let the voters know what the intent is? Should this pass, where those monies would want to go? I think they're very interested in knowing where those monies would go. And we've talked about a variety of items, and we got another big one that was, thrown in our lap tonight. We got $600,000 worth of paving and sidewalk work to do.
So
The local options sales tax would take care of all of that.
yeah.
Plus,
Again, I want to keep to facts and not sales pitches here. Should we do a straw poll of, do we as a board believe that this should go on the ballot? Or I don't think we have the ability to put these into effect. So I would like to know, does everybody think they should go on the ballot? And if so, then let's start streamlining and get that organized. And then we can set up the big talks, because the vote is not until March. So we have plenty of time to discuss the pros and cons, but we need to decide, is it going on the ballot? And, do we want the voters to vote on it? Do we want to list all three? And where do we want to allocate the money? I just don't want to get bogged down in the pros and cons. So
yeah, Laura, I'm personally, I'm fine with that. I'll just say this and give everyone else a chance to talk. But yeah, we've already done this with the rooms tax, so why not?
Yeah, I'll think.
Well, it's a requirement that we have to know where we're going to put the money.
Right.
When we get it. And it does have to go on the ballot, in my opinion. And I don't disagree with, like, if we decide, I think if we decide to put it on the ballot, and then after that, we can have informational meetings or provide like this sheet to everyone that's interested in hearing what it has the potential to bring in. And if it's something that is palatable, then go from there.
So
Can I just, George and Leah chime in if they'd like?
Oh, I can answer the question of, do I think they should be on the ballot? The answer is yes for me. I think all four of them should be on the ballot. Do I think they should be targeted? Yes, sales will be used for XYZ. Meals will go to here, et cetera, then we target them. And I wouldn't even be opposed to sunsetting. Get us a run. And again, I hear what Laura's saying. We could see infrastructure. Talk about specific projects that need infrastructure funding. 3-4 year window, sunset. If the board that's sitting in 4 years wants to bring them back up again, they bring them back up and the voters have another vote on it. I have no problems with any of that, but I think they all should be in front of the voters. It's their money. It's our money too, but it's everybody's money. We're all going to pay taxes for this, and we're going to have to pay taxes for roads one way or another, whether it's Jordan's 5.5 cents, or whether it's LOT, or whether it's some other place. But I don't know, we find millions of dollars every year. But if the voters don't want to do that, then they don't want to do the 5.5 cents. They don't want to do any kind of LOT. That's fine. That's their choice. But the roads are going to start to slide. Yeah. So the short answer is yes, they should all be on the agenda, on the ballot. Each individually, not one that says, shall we do all four? 4 separate articles to see what people want to do or again that.
So the agenda item tonight is to discuss the local options sales tax. I just want to make sure that, is there board members that want to speak specifically to the local options sales tax?
Well, I just want to comment that I agree, it also needs to be in front of the voters as well. My one comment about the sales tax is a common comment that we hear is we need to reduce the property tax. And this LOT, particularly with the sales tax, is really one of the only ways we have to generate revenue other than property taxes. And this is a way to spread that pain among people that are not property owners. It makes it more equally divided. So when you first hear about it, it's like, I don't really want to do an LOT. But then when you really start looking at what it means, at the costs that the town is facing, at what this revenue can bring in and how it can bring it in across a larger population, people paying into it, it makes sense to me. So I definitely would support it, but I also think that the voters need to have that say.
So I guess I'd also like to ask the question then, if everybody's in agreement that we want it all on the ballot, do we want four separate targets for where is each one going to have different money, or do we do one target?
So I'm going to say, yeah, it's a great question. And again, I'm trying to just go with what's on the agenda here. I'm going to suggest, I mean, if we want to take a straw poll, I'm fine with doing that right now, if the rest of the board is. And at the next meeting in 2 weeks, our regular select board meeting, when we were going to discuss meals and alcohol, which we can still do. But at that meeting, we warned this agenda item to include whether we're going to put these on the ballot as 4 separate articles, 3 separate, 2 separate, or 1 article. And that we also warn at the next meeting, so the public has a chance to know that talking about this, how perhaps most importantly, where these funds are going to be targeted. We're not letting them really know that. So I would suggest in 2 weeks we do that, but I'm willing to do that straw poll tonight.
Well, may I make a suggestion that perhaps, I know we talked about them doing individually, but we're kind of putting the cart before the horse, that maybe we table this and for the next meeting that we make a formal decision about, are we going on the ballot and where it's going? And then start scheduling the marketing, meetings and the fuller discussions. Because the budget is going to be huge. So that's just my thought, just trying to be efficient. Because again, we can spend all night going around because I have pages of information about sales, but it's pointless because, everybody's got an opinion at this point. What we need to do is, what are your thoughts on that?
Does the board want to chime in right now on whether this should go on the ballot? Whether 4 of these should go to the voters?
I'm just saying that we established a timeline for discussion of each of these items like a month ago.
Yeah.
And maybe to do some, I'm not necessarily, I don't know that I'm opposed to it, but I don't know that if we vary from the timeline that we discussed in a public meeting a month ago, does that affect anything that this discussion wasn't warned? And if we don't have,
I don't want to get into the details on meals and alcohol because we clearly have told the public we're
Right,
going to do that in 2 weeks. Right.
that's what I'm saying.
I mean,
So to say that, I don't disagree maybe with similarly with what Laura said to go to the next meeting.
I think it would be easy enough just to let the public know where we stand on whether this is going to be voted upon.
Yeah, I think that because
Do you want to start?
well, ultimately it's everybody's opinion. And so if you're voting, we can sit here and go round and round and round, but ultimately if it's on the ballot and we can have discussions, but we need to get the work done.
Do you think these 4 should go to
Yes.
the voters?
Well, I
George?
take that back. Can I change my mind? No, I only actually want rooms, the rooms tax. And
To
I
go to
do
the
not want
voters?
the others to go on, and I can go into,
You don't want the others to be voted upon.
I do not, and I can go into
George?
long
I
explore.
want all 4 of them to be on the ballot.
Leo?
I think all should be on the ballot.
Richard?
Everything.
I think it's only fair to let the public decide all four of these. So I appreciate, I thank you for shortening our discussion tonight, perhaps, but
Is this sheet out there for the public, right?
Is this paper?
Yes.
So everybody's, okay. all
Okay,
right.
great, good.
Do we also have a list? I know there are lots of them, but do we have a published list of, especially like, sales, exactly what is subject to the sales tax?
There is one at,
There's one.
it is online. It's tax.vermont.gov, and it's general guidelines on sales tax, what is taxable and exempt.
So I would recommend and ask that we put a link to that, because that's the big question is, you know, that tells you what you're gonna pay the tax on and how you'll be affected, which is, yeah, we're gonna make $1 million, but what's the cost to me?
Right.
Is what I think is, you know, what we need to help people answer for themselves.
So I'm going to suggest at the next meeting,
The 8th or the 15th?
the 15th, that we have an agenda item which speaks to number one, whether we are going to, I think administration and town clerk's office would like to know this sooner than later, whether we're going to treat these as 4 separate articles or some combination thereof. And number two, how those funds are going to be targeted and whether or not they would be sunsetted at some point in the future. So I think that would be very fair to the public to get that out early and give everyone a chance to start thinking about this, even though it is 3 months away, but it's just about exactly 3 months away is town meeting day. So, yeah.
Time to do in depth.
Yeah.
And that way the businesses and different people can come. You know, thank you.
Our agenda item is to discuss the local option sales tax, though. Is there any board members that want to add to that conversation?
Well,
Any members?
I will. Why I don't want it on the ballot, is first of all, we as members of this board have said that we are elected to represent the town and do what's best for the town. Given the current situation, and I'll just be quick, I want to quote Robert Reich, who was Secretary of Labor for Clinton, and he worked in the offices of Ford, Carter. He states that the primary economic engine, due to its role in consumer spending, which is about 70% of the economy, is the middle class. So it's not the rich who pay, it's the middle class who pay. And when the middle class has sufficient purchasing power, it fuels a cycle of mass consumption and mass production, leading to job creation and broad economic prosperity. And why I think this is important, being in the market, is that we as a small town, and what I have pitched before, need to keep as much money out in our economy circulating as possible. And when that dries up, a perfect example is what happened in COVID. When the money dries up and people don't spend, businesses close. While these numbers are impressive, we're still at a point where many businesses have not recovered from COVID, and probably never will be. And so I have huge concerns, and a lot of those business owners do not live in town. So I feel a responsibility to speak for them and for what's best for town and business, and a good economy is what's good for town. So
Yeah.
I don't want to cut our nose off to spite our face. So that's my argument why I'm afraid to put it on the ballot, because it's going to be sold as $1 million, $1 million. We can do all of this without the backside. And a lot of it is just timing. What's going on? Did anybody see that the state just announced 12% tax increases on their property taxes next year? More is coming.
Thank you, Laura.
Yep.
So
that's
I'll save my comments for later, but yeah, members of the public, come on up to the microphone.
At Lowington, Morristown, keeping it as brief as I can.
Thank you, Ed.
I don't have a good sense of time. Um, I've continued my talks with business owners. One of the main issues being to talk to them and also just think about what's in a store, what kind of economic activity is going on. I had an internet business once, and I remember when this whole local taxation started. And it was not hard to implement at all because it was done for us. I've become a real enthusiast of this local options tax, and I've realized how, just thinking of it, how much business is conducted online from this town. All of the sales taxes they collect will come here. It'll add 1%. Those numbers are probably conservative right off the bat. A lot of shopping is done by out-of-towners in this town. There's really quite a bit of it. We will be getting out-of-town money. 1% additional on the expenditure for a service or product won't be noticed. And if I had the time here, I could prove it to you. There's a behavioral science, economic behavior studies that tend toward that conclusion. And just doing a thought experiment in my mind, how far will I drive to save 1%? That's not going to happen. If you're not having good business, you cannot blame it on the percent.
Thank you, Ed.
So I
Thank you.
say go ahead and do it on all of them.
Thank you very much. Anybody else? I see the hand online. I'll get to that in a second.
Hi, Kristen Fogdahl, Jersey Way. It's obviously a complicated issue. So all I'm going to say at this point is to try to draw a connection between something that Brent said, the numbers that he presented around the roads, and what a large geographic area, what an economic center we are for the region. Our roads are getting that wear and tear, not just from our use, but everybody's use, and same for all the other costs. And I think, while I certainly respect Laura's position and concerns, we have to proceed with caution. I think what we also have to think about is what is good for town is, yes, the middle class and people's own economic positions, whether that's affected by a sales tax or a property tax, but that what is also good for town is acknowledging the fact that, like it or not, we have grown and we're probably going to continue growing. And the idea that growth leads to lower taxes has been proven not to be the case. And I think we're seeing that and we're living through it. And so we've got to find ways to grapple with it. And I agree with Leah's notion that it's at least a way of spreading things out. That being said, I think maybe we should look at some other communities that have adopted it and try to get a sense of whether, there are negative impacts and consider those. So I don't know if that's something that you guys would take on, or whether private citizens who are interested in that, like me, have to do that research on our own. But those are some of the thoughts I have on
Thank you, Chris.
how we could be thinking about this in the next few months.
Thank you. Anybody else that would like to comment? Come on up to the microphone.
Jerry Throne. In my opinion, the sales tax, the thing that people are concerned about the most about the sales tax is that how's it going to affect them? Well, groceries are excluded from sales tax and local option tax. So essentials are not going to be taxed. Things that people need to live and preserve their well-being are not going to be taxed. I also think that putting a link to the website for the tax is a great idea, but people are not going to spend the time doing that or looking at it. I think if it's beneficial for the public to know what is on the website, it should be printed out and made available to them.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. Thank you. Thank you. Anybody else in the,
Fact sheet, so we can print it.
anybody else in the room before I go to the screen? Josh looks like has his hand up. Josh Goldstein.
Yep, thank you. This originally came to the select board from the planning commission, and we suggested this as a revenue stream. I stand behind it. I'll stick to the local option since that's the agenda item, but it's important to understand. I echo Kristen's comments and Ed's at that point. We are the hub of the entire county. So from Stowe to Waterville to Wolcott, like everyone comes in for groceries, meals, and does whatever they need to do in a town because we don't go out there. That's use on our roads and use of every other piece of infrastructure, and we're all paying into a greater good, and that's why I believe in it. The economics of it, I think the local option tax is 2%, and meals and rooms, even though we're not talking about, is 1%. I mean, these are pennies on a dollar, like literally pennies on a dollar that add up in aggregate, and I think they're very, very important. I stand behind letting the voters take the decision on it, but it really does add to the whole pot. And there's an entire county of people and beyond, never mind out-of-state visitors, that are coming in to spend money here, that we can improve our roads, sidewalks, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, it's low-hanging fruit in my opinion, and that's why we wrote the letter, whatever it was, a year and a half or 2 years ago. So I'm in full support of all of it, as long as it goes to the vote of the people.
Thank you, Josh. Just to be clear, it is a 1% tax on all of these. It's not 2% on sales. It's 1% across the board.
We only get 75 cents of that.
We only get 75% of that. That's correct. And that $1 million is 75%. Any other comments? Josh, I assume your hand's still up, but you're good? Yeah. Okay. Okay. I'm going to move on. Okay. Number 9. Thank you, everybody.
So we're tabling this and it'll be the ballot discussion, and where they're going to will be on the 15th. Is that correct?
In 2 weeks, we will talk about, I guess, most importantly, we're going to talk about how we're going to present this article, or what we're thinking about how it's going to be presented, whether it's together or separate. And assuming that these pass, any of these pass, what those monies would be targeted for. Yeah. But we also need to talk about meals and alcohol on the 15th as well, because we said we would. That doesn't mean we can't go back and talk about sales and rooms again. Okay. So I'm going to move forward. Yeah. Okay. Come on up.
Kristen Fogdahl again. Just super quick question. What you said about, do we have to designate? It's a law that if you put it has to be put towards a line item in the budget. It can't just go into the town budget.
No, it doesn't have to be put towards anything specific. Some towns have put it towards different things. Some towns have simply put it towards reducing property tax. End of story. And so that with SDRs, you can't. With short-term rentals, you can't do that, but local options tax.
No, I don't think any of it can be.
It can't be that specific because it has to be equitably distributed.
It has to go to the good of everyone.
The good of everyone. It can't be specifically just to front.
Yeah.
The local options tax?
Right.
I know that was true of the SDRs. I thought that was only short-term rentals.
The local option tax.
Okay.
My understanding.
What our plan is to, I think the plan is to target it to certain projects like paving. I'm not going to say that.
Yeah, and maybe that makes sense. I was just going to throw out the idea that from a budgeting perspective, flexibility is always the best friend of the fiscal manager. And if we don't have to, maybe that's something to consider.
Okay, great.
I have-
Thank you, Kristen.
People, and my understanding is that it has to be, you have to let the taxpayers know where it's going to be used. You just can't collect money on an open fund. And in talking with Richmond, who they are rescinding theirs, they are one of the few that actually is rescinding their tax. They were very specific about that they're not easy to pass, and that if you want to pass it, that they highly suggested having a sunset, very, very specific, because people don't want to fund in perpetuity. And
Richmond or
change.
Montgomery? Richmond? You said Richmond.
Sorry, Montgomery.
I thought Montgomery
Thank you, Brett.
was sunsetting because the project that they had earmarked it for ended.
But they specifically designed it that way.
Correct, so that it was a natural sunset because the project ended.
Yeah, but that was part of the design. They are not,
Correct.
they are not putting it on the ballot for something else.
So it wasn't that they rethought it and thought it was a bad idea. It was that they had a project that was funded. Okay.
Did I-
Yeah,
Specific.
that's different. Go ahead.
Does the
Look,
board
Ted.
want to consider how it will present this issue to the voters? I certainly think it ought to be balloted, all of it should be. But how do you do that? Do you do it in a kind of hands-off neutrality and let the voters learn about it on their own through public discussion? Or does the board want to present any kind of fact or instruction about it? I think it's sort of important to decide that because there's not total unanimity on the board about the details of it. So what is fairly representing, how do you fairly represent the select board's position, except, or is it total neutrality, just hands off, here it is, learn about it on your own and then vote on it when the time comes?
Yeah, thank you. It's a good question. Okay, so I'm gonna move for I'm gonna move on then to number 9, recreation and budget. So in talking with Brent, this is on talking to Brent and Judy about this. This is on the agenda tonight to give administration some direction as to where we want them to go in regards to the budget that's coming up, looking for some guidance on how recreation should be seen or found, or however you might want to say it within the budget. So
if I could
we
just
had-
clarify, Don.
yeah, go ahead.
I'm not looking for the select board to make a motion here tonight and tell me that you want it in the budget. It'd be difficult for you to do that without first seeing my budget presentation. But I feel like last year I may have gotten out in front of the select board too much with my proposed budget when I presented it, and knowing the double-digit increases we were looking at, thought that it was in the best interest to temporarily, not fulfill that position. I don't want to be out in front of the select board this year. I will be honest, I'll have the same natural propensity, not because I don't think that this town needs recreation, but because we are facing difficult choices again. So I'm going to be presenting next week, and I don't want to be out in front of the select board, and I don't want people to think that I don't feel like recreation is important to the community. So I'm not asking for you all to tell me you want recreation in the budget. I'm asking you to tell me how you might want me to present my budget, because I can have it broken out with, without, or alternatives that you all, I'm hoping, will discuss tonight and give me direction. The town seems pretty split on this topic, so I can't read the winds, I can't read the tea leaves on this. So that's why I wanted it on the agenda tonight.
Thank you for that. So what are our thoughts on items such as, do we want a full-time recreation director? Do we want a half-time recreation director or some number other than that, some fraction other than that? Do we want a recreation committee put in place? Do we want this director to be under the auspices of town administration, under the auspices of a committee? There's all kinds of iterations on this. We had a very extensive presentation 2 weeks ago regarding recreation. So I think we should by now understand the full value of recreation. The question now is the cost of putting it in place, in my opinion. So I'll just leave it to others to chime in.
I'm going to chime in. I think I want to make it clear when I talk about recreation, I am not talking just about the summer rec program. I'm looking more as a whole. And last year was rough, and last year didn't go as anyone hoped it would go. So I'm looking now, okay, that was then, let's look forward, let's move forward. And let's talk about what recreation can and could be overall for the town for all ages, an all-encompassing recreation program, not just a summer program. And so for all ages, and I see it as a much more collaborative effort using a number of schools in town working together, using library, River Arts, a number of other organizations that do some aspects of recreation, because it has a huge, certainly an economic benefit. We're at the middle of the rail trail and we have a lot of opportunity there. It's also health and well-being overall, mental health, physical health, connections, reducing isolation, allowing some social ability that, let's face it, we're missing. It's a big part of building a community, is that community connectiveness, which I think you can grow through a really well planned out recreation program. So I do, and I think it attracts new residents. I think it helps make the town more appealing in general, both to new residents, but also to us living there. And again, I see it for all ages, not just children. I see seniors involved. I see young families. I see people like me. I'm an empty nester, but I'd like to meet new people. So you mentioned, should there be a volunteer committee? Yes, I do think it would be good to restart a volunteer committee, but remember, it is a volunteer committee, and that there needs to be some point person, some that provides leadership to that committee with that community, that also has a shared vision. And that vision has to be a vision that the town and our residents have fed up to us, so that there's a shared vision on what recreation means for this town. So it's not just going back to what we've done in the past, but really taking this as an opportunity to be thoughtful about it. So I do think it needs to be, and I have flip-flopped on this, I'll be honest, I do think it does need to be in the budget, because it is an important component of the town. We have a wellness plan in our town plan. It's a part of our vision for the town. So I think it needs to be represented in the budget. Is it a position? I don't know. Is it part-time? Is it full-time? I don't know. But I think there needs to be a commitment to recreation in the budget. Are there other organizations that could play that leadership role? Possibly. I don't know if there's an organization ready for that. I don't know. Maybe 2 years from now, that would be a possibility. But I don't think we can not have it presented in the budget.
Richard?
I feel similarly to Leah. And I know it's a challenge to a big ask, but I think that the first step that we need to do is to get a volunteer committee, see if we can get a volunteer committee and get some people that are able to leverage some of the other programs that we have in our town. That we do a bunch of, and like was said at the last meeting, there's a bunch of things that we do that other people aren't aware of, like the pickleball and the turkey trot and all those things that we do. And we need to make our community more inviting to young people, if there's, and older people as well. I feel like we owe it to our town to do something in regard to recreation. I think we're at a spot now where we, had some stumbles, and we can come up with some money and a volunteer group of people that could work together to put some direction to it. I think that's what we need to do. George?
I agree with everything that Leah and Richard have said, except for one thing. I would want to see it in a separate article because it is so divisive. We have people on both sides of this fence. Committed people who are very saying exactly what you're saying, Leah, and would volunteer for these committees. And I think that would be a wonderful thing to have happen. It's not that I'm opposed to recreation by any means. The broader definition of recreation, again, if we're talking about some direct program, that's a whole different conversation. But I know what Brett's going through right now, trying to put a budget together. And we're all going to take a breath on the 8th of December when he presents that budget. I don't want to risk a budget failure on a single item. That's what it comes down to for me. The best poll we can take is a poll in March that says, does this community support recreation or not? Vote yes, vote no. That's the poll that's going to tell us where this community stands. So I would love to see that put into a separate article. How much is going to be in that article? That's a whole different conversation. Are we talking about a full-time person, a half-time person, and all these other things that go with it? I don't know what that magic number is. I do support recreation. I think we could coordinate a lot more. We've got a lot of groups that are doing their piece. Could they be helped by a town employee that manages some aspect of the baseball program or the basketball program, whatnot, reaches out to elders and helps, activities for them and for kids. But I think it's a hell of a risk to put it in the budget. I don't think it's a problem to put it out as a separate article, and separate articles may become the point of the day. We're just talking about 4 now. Here I am raising a 5th one. How many of these can we put before the voters? I question that as well, because I keep doing this a little bit, Leah. Probably not as much as you, because I'm more set on the separate article in my mind. Obviously, I'll support whatever the board wants to do. But my hesitation for it is, this is not an 80-20 in my mind, where 8% of the people think it's a good idea, 20% don't. I think it's really close. And I may be wrong. I'd love to be proven wrong. But I think the only way we find out is to ask. And if we put it in the budget, we don't know. So that I agree with everything the two of you said, but I'd like to see it as a separate article. Laura?
We have had 2 budgets that failed. We've had 2 that barely passed. We are looking at very tough times going forward. What I do agree with Leah as far as we want rec. And again, my complaint with having it in-house is we are limited to grants because we're not-for-profit. We also do not have access to that 44-cent payroll tax for, afternoon. What we do, what I have done in Burlington, which works well, and I think we are kind of heading in that direction, is that we have an annual meeting. We have a recreation committee But then you have a big meeting with Mac, with Adele, and they sit at the table, and you have everyone together who, you know, has come together with Turkey Trot and this event, and you create this town calendar. So the people that we have are already coordinating, but you let the events be developed and produced by the individual groups. If anybody read the Lisa Zen's thing, she clearly says, I'm interested in increasing the number of public educational events. Something could happen at the town forest, increasing people's exposure to those trails. Well, she's the expert. So she could develop unbelievable programs, and then we can come to Mac in town and publish those, you know. And also, I mean, I send grant information to Adele and to any, if something comes across my plate, I send it out to, hey, maybe you can use this. So it's more of a communication and coordinating, and that we, you know, again, I see Mac in town as more of coordinators and keeping a schedule. And again, town like, yep, here, Oxbow's available, this, you know, and in case big events come in, which I do think is a deal. If, you know, you've got some big biking event, we do need to have somebody, but that's a, you know, that's a bigger event rather than an activity. But I just think there's plenty of ways to do this. And I do, you know, and I mean, I think we're going to have a very hard time getting this budget passed because times are very hard out there and people are not moving here. Because they cannot afford it. If you look at, we are one of the highest taxed counties in the state. And there was a national poll that just came out. 23 states are currently in recession, and Vermont is next in line. We have to look forward to that, and we've got to put a realistic budget. Not to say that we're cutting, we've got to rethink it. I'm completely with you, Leah, that we've got to rethink this, and it's got to be broader. Everybody is so caught up that rec now is a 7-week program.
And it's not.
And it's not. We got to break that. And I think pulling it out of town, you know, and if somebody wants to do a 7-week program, great. You know, you can, and if you're certified, not for profit, there's lots of options. So that's my comments.
Go ahead.
I think kind of where Leah may have been going with her initial comment was a recreation program. Not that there's going to be necessarily a physical town employee assigned to it, but maybe some sort of an organization, a group of people that the town is willing to support to move things forward. Not a head count so much, but just, does the town want to support recreation in the community as a whole? And that doesn't, I've heard the head count, I've heard the money, the $100,000 for an employee. I don't think we need to do that now. I think we need to take baby steps towards something and see if it works, but there should be some sort of support from the town, in my opinion.
It's currently in Adele's contract. I suggest you read her contract. Rec.
I'm also
just saying, I don't know if you're aware of that.
Well, I know that I was part of the interview process with Adele, and I understand that that's in there, but I think she's overwhelmed with some of the other things she has to do. And what I'm saying is, a volunteer, if we can get a volunteer group of people that are willing to work toward recreation, and there's some sort of town sponsored something or other in there, if it's in the budget, if it's $20,000, or if it's, I'm just making a number. That's all I'm saying. And I don't disagree with George's position about putting it on the ballot.
Well,
but to throw it away without giving people an opportunity to chime in on it.
We're definitely in a period when you're talking about recreation, we really have to rebuild and do it differently, because what we were doing didn't work. And doing that, but we have a lot of things that are also at the beginning stage. The downtown designation plays a role in this. Mac needs to get up and running. Adele really is focused on economic development, and depending on how you define it, community development. Mac is also community development, with economic development, they're very focused on the economic development, particularly focused on the rail trail, from what I understand. They need to get up and running. They're a volunteer board right now as well. And they're going to be looking for an employee. Again, that employee is going to be focused on community development. They're not going to be focused on recreation. Adele, yeah, it's been part of her job description, but that's because historically, the person who had that position did it as part of their position. And so some of it is how are we looking for Adele's focus and time to be spent in the most effective way for the town. Mac needs to get up and running. It could very well be that at some point down the road, Mac could have a rep position, and that could be the leadership position that is needed. Volunteer group can get a lot done, but they can't run a rec program into the future.
Are you in favor of a volunteer committee?
Oh, absolutely.
Recreation?
Yeah. And again, you know, having been in the business, you know, recreation events can generate a lot of money. Huge bike events. Somebody was just telling me about how much money Waterbury now is with mountain biking. So that's kind of where I'm seeing too, is that if, you know, yes, they're economic, but if we start developing that side of it and start making us a center for biking and a center for cross-country skiing, that generates revenue, you know, but it's also tied into recreation. And that's where I see the towns and I see Adele's responsibility, but that it all ties into the big picture. So she's more events, targeted events, but then there's also this ongoing, there's a bike group that goes out every Wednesday or something, you know, and there's pickleball already going on. And Harold's looking for ping pong tables. Hey, it's great. He's got a whole group of and it's important, but we don't have any ping pong tables for him. Maybe we should use the country club. But yeah, so I think we're kind of all talking about, I think we're all in support of it. It's just, I personally do not think it should be in the budget. I think not yet. And I would love to, in 5 years, where all of a sudden we're such a big thing and that we could support it.
So would you want to see it as a separate article?
No.
So you don't want to see it there at all?
No, I think it's a conversation between, because again, I think it's, you know, people not knowing, I think.
Separate article, it runs the risk of recreation as it's known.
That's
past versus recreation as we're talking about it tonight.
I think
that's a huge risk.
I think it would be great for the town and Mac and everybody to kind of get together and maybe it's this committee, create a recreation mission statement where we want to go so people understand what we're trying to get to and break that. We got to break that cycle because this, you know, thing of rec is a 7-week program we got to get out of that.
Richard, what do you think? In the budget or separate article? Any thoughts?
I agree with Leah on if it's a separate article, but it just gets into that as it going to be wrapped like it has been historically.
I'm not even saying position at this point.
No,
I'm saying some funding towards recreation that Adele or Mac said, okay, you know, we have X number of dollars that the town is putting towards recreation. So as they rebuild, I'm not saying position necessarily. I'm just saying that recreation needs to have a presence in the town budget.
So I would say, number one, I think we're all in agreement that there should be a committee looking down the road, some volunteer committee. Whether that committee is going to oversee the director, or whether that director is going to be, if there is a director, it's going to be a town employee. I don't think we're deciding that tonight. Personally, I mean, I'm already on record as saying that, you know, it should be a separate article. I guess for now, I would continue to agree with that, although I might change my mind on that. But I think the important issue that you need to know is you're building this budget, and where does recreation fall in the budget? And maybe the problem I have with this is I still haven't seen the entire budget.
Yeah.
None of us have. I know, George, you've been working with Brent on the budget. And
George hasn't seen the entire budget because there's big ticket items that we didn't get till today.
but I guess what I would like to see is we're going to see in a week the budget. And it would be good to have some idea of what a recreation position, what impact it would have on that budget. You know, what would that, you know, what would the additional dollar values be?
You're saying a formal position or a recreation line item, like just without a head count? I think is kind of where.
Yeah, I would like to see the budget. We can always add things to the budget. You know, so if all of a sudden the budget comes through, I have concerns about just adding money because who's doing what with that money?
Well, we don't know.
You know.
To your point, we don't know what it looks like.
At this point, I mean, to me, logical person's Adele would have. She's not responsible for recreation, but that's.
We've got to be careful talking about Adele. Adele's already overworked. She's already got too much. I'm very uneasy throwing really any of this on her plate.
No,
you know, she's already stretched thin. I use this statement a lot, you know, you can't be a jack of all trades and get anything done well. And so, you know, and that's kind of like the position that she's in. I guess what I would suggest, Brent, is, you know, what would, just as a starter, what would a halftime position look like monetarily, financially? Forgetting about, I know there's those issues too, but we're talking about a budget. You know, we got to look at that number. Yeah, there's all kinds of other issues, and we can cloud everything up with all these other issues, but we're talking about a budget right now. And so what would a halftime position look like monetarily? What would it look like in the budget? So if it's going to cause the budget to go from X percent to Y percent, I just want to know what that is. So I can begin to put this into perspective.
So am I putting in a halftime position in the budget? Just as a comparison without and with half, like that's what I'm looking for. Is I could present all sorts of different options, but I know that, you know, that's why I wanted to clarify when you started describing this agenda item. I don't expect you all to give me direction. I want position in the budget. I'm just looking for, what do you want me to present? You want me to present the budget as I would? And again, I know this will not be popular to say it, but looking at things, I would like to delay for at least another year a staff person on, but I can put in a halftime, and it can be figured out over the months. I can put in without and with. See, there's a comparison, you see. And you can see if we are able to work through unions and then you want them directly under us, we could have that halftime person. Or if it's a third party that we provide the funds to with specific requirements that the select board and community members weigh in on and what they want, you know, but I have a few days to get this budget wrapped up, and I can't, even now, I don't know what the select board is asking me to do. So I'm looking for a little bit more clarification here.
So in terms of the budget, what are we asking Brent to do?
I think it's a difficult question to answer because no one has defined what wellness and recreation. I'll throw the word wellness in there, but recreation in the broad sense. What is it? I mean, Leah's eloquently talked about all different groups of people and etc. And that helps, but that's hard to quantify at this point. So I don't know what direction to give you, Brent, and I apologize because I think we should be giving you direction, and we're not there ourselves, it seems like, in total.
The easiest way I could say is I could just look to Johnson. They have somebody that works about 22 hours a week. They don't do a summer rec program. They do different programs throughout the year. And I could model a proposal. So I could do a budget without it, and then I could do a budget modeled on what Johnson has in place with somebody who works approximately 20-something hours a week.
That sounds good to me. That's about a half-time position right there.
Are they union in
No.
Johnson?
Well, I think their highway is.
But not their town offices. And I will say, you know, when we had a recreation person, they tried to coordinate events. So there were, you know, organized hikes and stuff. So again, I worry that we're going, until we have a very clear definition of what we're doing, and I think the committee will do that, I don't want it in the budget, because I think we're just going to confuse people. They're going to be like, yeah, we did that. They're going to come in and write all these grants. We've been there. So until we get a committee.
The town, there's usually a matching amount. So even, I mean, even if it's just a token amount, not a position per se, but this is some funding to help MAC do something recreation, or something that we can provide a match for a grant that some other organization that's doing for recreational. So to me, it is at this point and in this conversation, it's almost symbolic in a way to show that the town is committed to recreation, and that once we have a committee up and running again, and once we have a little further down the road the downtown designation and MAC has been able to get established, it's another conversation then as to how best to coordinate this. But we've had recreation in the budget, with the exception of last year. So to me, it's almost symbolic in some way to have a dollar amount, not necessarily a position per se, but a dollar amount of some sort.
And I don't think we can lose sight that we have, we give a certain amount of money to MAC. We give $200,000 to the library. So we give a lot of these groups. So MAC can decide, you know, with the money that we give them, if they want to use some of that for rec programs. The library already does with their programming that they do. They're not necessarily rec programs, but they're doing a significant amount of programming. So it's not like, it's not a line item that says rec, but the town as a whole is putting money out there, and those organizations have the ability to, you know, and maybe, you know, we can say, we hope, or, you know, again, put a mission statement out. But I just think that to put a line item in there that we're going to throw money at it, who would throw money? I see what you're saying. I just don't think we're there.
First of all, let's be,
Yeah.
it's not throwing.
Well,
George, Richard?
Like I said, I don't think we need to have a position, but I think we can do it if we can do an equivalent amount to a part-time position or a half-time position in the budget, and I think we need to get a volunteer committee together. But if they don't have any source of revenue to pull from to do things like Leah said, like find grants, then you're not going to get anybody that's willing to do anything. We're just talking right now. If you have a group of people that don't have any funding to be successful.
Leah, I hate it, and I don't think it's throwing money. I don't think either you or Richard are advocating throwing money at a problem or a need. That's not my position at all. And when you say a nominal amount, I don't know what nominal is, and I don't know whether you do or not. I don't know. I don't think I want you to share what that number is.
And I don't know either. I have no budget. I don't have a draft of a budget. So it's putting all of these various topics that we've talked about in context when it's
right. What is a part-time employee? Are we paying them $12 an hour? Are we paying them $35 an hour? That's a huge difference. So we don't,
we don't know.
Yeah.
So I think Brent's offer, in my mind, of just gathering Johnson's information, and hopefully they've got a breakdown on salary and benefits, and that they've got maybe programming costs and maybe grant match costs. So I don't know what they've got. Without even putting it in the budget at this point, or not in the budget, doing neither of those, just bringing that information back to this board. Without having to make Brent set up a yay and a nay kind of a setup. And then it might inform all of us a little bit on what Johnson's costs are running and what they're, to some degree, Brent's got more than he can do right now, but just a scope of what Johnson's doing and how much it's costing, and then whether all of that makes sense, none of that makes sense, or some components of that make sense, whether it's the programming costs and grant match, take those two. That to me is going to be a more informed conversation. This is a good first conversation, but we can't make any decisions on what any of us are saying right now, because there's no meat on the bone. There's a belief system, but that's about what we've got, is a belief system. And we may have different beliefs. I'm not even saying we're chewing on the same bone. But I think that would be the information that I would like to, if Brent can find the time, to just bring us that data, not in the budget or out of the budget. Just bring us that data.
That would work for me. That would be my suggestion.
Well,
Does that work? Does that work for you?
Yeah.
Does that give you kind of like
I'm
the
in.
information?
The select board tells me what they want, and I try to figure out a way to implement it. And again, I feel sort of bad that last year I may have gotten out ahead of the select board on this topic. And, you know, I don't want to do that again this year, because it is such a, for rightfully so, it's a passionate topic for this community, and I understand why. I just did not want to create undue issues for the select board by being out in front of you.
Go ahead.
So our previous rec director started part-time, so we have that information. They then went full-time, and now everybody's union. So, and again, but I will say the problem was that it was tied to a 7-week summer program. And
Yeah,
so,
and I'm not saying that the town should present a summer week program.
right.
I think we redefine what we're doing.
And I totally agree with you. I'm just saying that if you put a line item in that budget, they're going to be, here we go again. We did this part-time. And so that's why I'm saying is let's figure out a way, you know, with a committee to reintroduce this, I guess, before we start allocating money is all I'm saying. And I think we need to do that, especially given what's going on, that, you know, money is a tough topic right now, but we can't stop. So that's mine.
Well, yeah, I don't know how we reintroduce it without putting some kind of money towards it to see what it looks like. Yeah. So again, my suggestion would be, I just want to give the board a chance to discuss first. I'll certainly open it up to everyone. Yeah, my suggestion would be to copy the Johnson model, and let's see what that looks like. Go ahead.
I'm Pam Stanion. I'm on the Conservation Commission. I live on Spring Hill, Morristown. So my old business name was Stanion Food Solutions. I'm all about solutions. So one of the things I hear you all saying is, we don't really know how to define this. Well, it needs bylaws. It needs a mission statement, right? It needs some kind of a strategy plan. These are things that a little volunteer board could do. Guess what? We have a volunteer board that does this already. It's called the Conservation Commission. None of us are compensated. It's all volunteer because we love the environment and we love our town. So that's the jumping off point for this group. And if you hire somebody and there's nothing clearly defined as to what is recreation, they're not going to know what to do. So it needs to be defined. There need to be some expectations, and then it'll come together. So there's my potential solution.
Thank you. Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
Jamie Jarrett. I agree with what Brent has said, that we don't want to put a position in the budget. That's plain and simple, because you've got different topics going on here. You've got one that's creating a position. You've got Another one that's creating a committee to determine what your recreation program wants to look like. And that has to come before the horse, right? I mean, to your point, to bring somebody in either on a full-time or even on a part-time basis just doesn't make any sense. It's not cost effective. The first thing that we should be talking about is how do we create a committee to determine what recreation do we want to do on a year-round basis? When we get that, but you need to have the parameters for that committee as well. They can't just have everybody coming out and giving their wish list because I want to do this and you want to do that. We're not going to succeed. We're going to fail in that. And then we'll be talking about this again next year the exact same way. So that's my suggestion is no position. If you need to put something in the budget, put the same amount of dollar and add 10% to what you had to redo the budget on for last year in recreation, which covered your summer program, and leave it at that. And then form the committee, but create the ramifications and how you want to move forward. Thank you.
So I guess I'm just wondering what the will of the board is at this point.
I'll talk. What I said before, if Brent can harvest the data from Johnson, not put it in the budget, not talk about whether it's in the budget or not, just give us that data and some scope as to how many lines they've got in it, and hopefully they got it broken down into more than just one line. If they've only got one line in the budget, then I'd ask you to ask somebody, you know, how does it break down? If you don't break it down budgetarily, how do you allocate this money into whatever major categories you think we'll be interested in? And I think you get a good sense of that. That would be my next step. Where we go from there, where I go from there, I'm not sure, but at least that's a fixed starting point that I can have a finite conversation around. What I think about it, I don't know. I haven't seen it yet. But I think as long as we keep circling around the racetrack now, that's a starting point to me.
Others? I feel the same way. We don't know what we have going on. And I think we know roughly what we want to do, and Jamie's not wrong with his statement either. We have to figure out what we want to do and where we want to go. But I still stick by it. We don't know what the money piece even remotely looks like for anything like that. So I think if I can provide that information, that would be a good place for us to start.
I think we need to answer that question, and copying Johnson is a way to answer that question. What is the money piece? What's it going to look like? And then this other stuff we can hash out afterwards. Those are my thoughts.
Just would question, why are you not looking at what our part-time position was? Because that was drafted by a whole recreation committee. And the whole point was that she was gonna do a broader, and then they decided to move it up. But I'm gonna, I agree with Jamie, that if we get a committee and we start talking about it and get it formed, there's a natural evolve when you start putting things out. Other options and opportunities come up that it may be that, Max says, this is something we'll pick up, or somebody else says we'll pick up. But I think we've got to get the conversation started and breaking the standard, breaking that rec is not just a 7-week program. And again, there wasn't theoretically money last year for it. Did we put money towards it? That's going to be kind of a heated topic. But I think, we're trying to define what we don't know how to define it. So I think we need to start the conversation again and get the parties involved, get conservation, get everybody together and say, what are your thoughts on overall recreation and start building it that way. And again, and keep our minds open as to other opportunities. This, I think we get locked into that it has to be a town thing. And,
I think we're all kind of circling around and saying similar things. I think I'm hearing a need for some dollar amount to be defined, and the choice is using whatever Johnson has in place. We also have the suggestion as well from what we earmarked last year in the budget, or what was done last year.
we didn't earmark.
And not earmarked, I used the wrong word.
Yeah.
And I think agreed, it starts with a committee that discusses, okay, what could it look like in partnerships, et cetera, et cetera. But as we do that, there's a question then is, well, there's always a question about money. It's a partnership. Well, we can cover this. What can you cover? So there, again, needs to be some dollar amount. And I don't have to say that, yep, we could use that as a match, or we can contribute this much, so that at least the town has a little bit of, I hate the phrase, skin in whatever conversation is happening. We have to be able to add, because all of these organizations that are doing these programs, their number one question is, okay, where's the money coming from? And I'm not saying the town covers it or pays for it all, but we have to have a little bit of money available to say, yep, we can do that this year, and then we can grow it, but we have to have a little kernel. So I'm looking at, when I say nominal, it's seed. It's a seed to help get us going again as the committee, volunteer committee, builds out.
And the reason why I recommended Johnson is because we've already been in contact with Hyde Park and Johnson. Neither of them offer, and I'm not confusing summer camp with recreation, neither of them offer summer camps. Adele has been in contact with Johnson most recently. And the reason why I recommended that as a possible, like, just to provide you with info, is because they do have an active program and they do offer multiple scheduled events. So you'll not only, hopefully, will be able to obtain for you their budget, but also the events that they put on. I'm not saying that we need to wed ourselves to any of those events, but it's a starting point for another community that doesn't have a full-time person doing.
So does Johnson not have the university facilities though, that we don't have? Because they've got a pool over there, so I just think we need to look at that too. I mean, I've seen their program, it's actually quite impressive. But they have an entire college
They have a facility.
facilities to use.
Well,
Makes it
one of the things I can
feasible.
look into is whether they're paying for those facilities, and if they're paying for those facilities, we could possibly pay for them.
We have the facilities as well. I've spoken to Kate Carney up at Johnson at the Shape Center about this. So we would have the same facilities. The difference for us would be transportation.
Well-
Getting kids up and getting, now we're talking summer rec, which we shouldn't, it's not just that, but those facilities are available to the county.
Facilities here that we can use.
Do?
It's not as clear cut as, as Johnson is. But again, you cross country and up at the country club, we have things we can use, especially outdoor, all the trails they're talking about, the mountain biking. So we have resources.
Yep.
But it's not as contained as Johnson's is. So that's just a
Are you feeling more confused or less confused since we began this conversation?
And the public may be like drained by this conversation, but it's really important that you're all able to discuss this openly. And I appreciate, I do have direction, I think, and
good.
So thanks.
Okay, thank you.
Well, I just want to say I'm concerned. Brent is straight out too, so
Absolutely.
I'm very concerned that we're throwing something on his plate that possibly could wait till a later date. Because come January, when things, and this is my whole conversation with the LOT, is that trying to have conversations right now, there's some priorities we need to really address. So I'm very concerned with both Brent and Adele that this is what we want to do. Is this the time to start talking about it? It is if we want money in there, but that's my concern. That I'm just like, I want to get our priorities And part of my big priority is to get a budget passed cleanly. Really good.
I think we're all in agreement with that one.
Yeah.
Come up to the microphone, please.
Martin Green. Just a clarification on something that was said earlier about the full-time rec position just being for that 7 weeks. My understanding it was a whole year position for a continuum of rec programs. So that was my understanding of it. And to what Brent was asking tonight about, or what not what he was asking, but what he mentioned about getting out in front of the board. I've been coming to these meetings for 3.5 years, and I don't think I've heard more passionate conversation around anything than the whole subject of recreation. I don't think I've heard a more informative, comprehensive, passionate presentation than Maggie brought a few weeks ago. So my understanding is that this issue, I mean, I haven't seen anything fought for more strongly than this. So to go around on this, to continue to go around on it, at least philosophically, it seems very redundant. I understand the discussion tonight about exactly how to put it in the budget, but in terms of the will of the board, I mean, to me, it's what's the point of having these people come and present to the board if we don't take to heart seriously what it is that they're presenting? I think every time anybody's ever presented, I've heard the board, most of the board, in agreement. But I don't have the data, so I don't know if the town is split. I don't know if anybody knows that one way or the other. But I would just say that we need to take into account the things that have been said about recreation, the value of it, and to really to consider that as part of the discussion.
Thank you, Martin. Dan, come on up. So I'm going to take Dan's comments and then I'm going to move on.
Dan McLaughlin, Morrisville. The only thing that I've been noticing more than anything, and sitting right behind Jerry, is I know that we keep talking committees, and I know committees that we've had in the past were just everybody that was wicked interested got put on the committee, and then the committees weren't well organized and they argued with each other and people ran away and other people took over. And I'd like to see a commission, something that's created by the town. Now, again, I'm not trying to make more work out of it. I'm trying to make something more stable that you guys have control over in the respect that they report, like that commission reports to you. You have a say-so on who gets on the commission and what they do. But around the budget, to answer his question, is first off, we could level fund it and create the commission. And maybe put some money extra above what is level funding to create the commission, give them some money to work with, to create bylaws, articles of agreement, positions between now and next year. And then next year and give the commission an assignment, because then you can just end it. If you have to hire you end it and it's a year from now, that type of thing. But I think you're gonna get very interested people to create the first commission, and I'm saying that instead of the word committee, so that it's something created by you guys and the public understands that there's a lot of oversight going on. They can create a budget to hand to him for next year. And if that involves hiring somebody part-time, otherwise it's a group of, I don't know, 5 to 10 or 9. 5 or 9 people, and they have to sit down and decide. I mean, they could probably copy a set of bylaws and create a mission statement pretty quickly, but and then they can run the program.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you very much. Okay. Well, as Dan said and Martin said, we've had a lot of discussion about this. So, but you've got what you need?
Yes.
Okay, great. Old business. I'm going to move on then. Old business, I assume we have none. Approve the warrants. I would entertain a motion.
Move to approve the warrants.
I have a motion. Do I have a second? Second. Go ahead, Laura.
I'll second.
So I got a motion by Richard, second by Laura. Any discussion regarding the warrants? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the warrants, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. That would be unanimous. Schedule, well, we've alluded to a little bit of this here. Next Monday, we will have a special select board meeting here. This will be administration's opportunity to present the budget that we are all looking forward to. So in 2 weeks, we'll have our next regular select board meeting. In 4 weeks, we will have, after Christmas, after the holiday, we will have a budget discussion. So we'll have the presentation on the 8th, and then 2 weeks after that, 3 weeks after that, we'll have the budget discussion. And January 5th will be our first regular select board meeting of the new year, and January 10th will be Pi Day. And that is at the VFW, not at PA. So all you can do to spread the word on that would be great. What? Go ahead. You sure can. I missed something, but it's at the VFW from 8 to noon.
You didn't miss anything. Judy Alberry. So we're going to be at the VFW at January 10th for Pi Day, 8 to noon. January 9th, which is the Friday before, at 2:30, we'll have access to the VFW. I need help setting up chairs and I need help setting up tables. So we're going to put out about 100 chairs in the VFW and then put the tables around for the social services. So if anybody wants to reach out to me that can meet me up there to help set up chairs, that would be wonderful. We can get in at 2:30 and after. So 3 o'clock, that'd be great. That'd be great. We've got Peter Guion's going to do the audio for us. And I've asked GMATV if they were interested in doing the live recording. So
Thank you, Judy. Thanks for organizing all this.
You said the 29th was the budget, so the 8th
Budget discussion. So
the budget.
yeah, the 8th is the presentation that administration will put on. And the 29th will be a chance for us to have I'm not going to call it a public forum, but
And when does?
I just did.
So I was going to ask for clarification about the 29th. So that is when public comes in and give us their feedback on the budget.
Probably be a chance for the select board to have a good discussion as well.
Okay.
Yep.
And when are we required to have the budget to Sarah? Because just one discussion seems.
I don't have it in front of me, but we've run all of this.
Yeah, I think it's
We've
part of this timing.
Yeah. Judy's going to get it.
Okay, I just, because again, the 10th, generally people.
It's on my calendar on the wall.
I'm just curious because to have technically only one day for budget discussion doesn't seem.
I think it's
Here we go.
the end of June.
I can distribute this to the select board, but so the approved budget and review warning at select board meeting has to be by January 20th. Petition articles are due January 15th. So any articles. News and citizen informational hearing meeting needs to be published by January 16th for January 2nd publication. And then we're talking January 22nd, post notice for informational meeting.
So when's the last date that changes can be made to the budget? My understanding, is that the 20th? Or no, that's what I guess I'm concerned about is
January 15th, our articles are due.
So is that the last day we can make any changes to the budget?
I believe so, yes.
Okay, just.
You mentioned the 20th.
That was the approved warning is
That's when
due.
That's the verbiage, and the
Well, not
verbiage is very
approving it.
important because
Yeah.
you don't get it right and can be challenged. So
I just want to make sure that I'm understanding it. So people ask me that, you know, that they can't make it on the 29th. When's their next opportunity? I mean, January 10th, that's still, there's a lot on that day as far as.
That's right. We don't have a meeting on the 19th, do we? Because that's Martin Luther King Day probably, which is a Tuesday. Yeah. So that sounds like the drop dead moment. Okay.
Yeah, I'm just concerned.
But that's drop. You know, it's a great question because we don't have a select board meeting between Pi Day and that
Yeah,
day.
and it's a lot, there's a lot of things.
Well, maybe
talk
that's
about.
something to.
We can add.
Okay.
That's what we did last year is we added meetings as
Yeah,
needed.
we could throw one in
I
there
just, yeah, that's,
on potentially the 12th, Monday, the 12th is a potential day. Yeah.
just have concerns that we have enough time for people to,
No, it's a very good question.
okay, some potential.
Okay, anything else about schedule? Other business, I assume we have nothing? Other business, I assume we have nothing?
Pardon me. We have nothing.
I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? I have a motion by Richard, second by George. It's 8:11. All those in favor of adjournment, please say aye.
Aye.
That would be unanimous. 8:11. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Warrants and signatures.